Hi, I'm Marco Rubio, and I begin as always by thanking you for the privilege and the honor of representing you here in Washington, D.C. as your United States Senator from Florida. This is our weekly installment of the Constituent Mailbox. For those of you that are new to this broadcast, it's basically where we reach into our emails and our letters and we pull out a few and answer them here on the air. That's why we encourage you to write us. We do read these letters, and as it proved a week ago when we looked at that internet bill that impacted the ability of freedom on the internet, we changed our minds on a piece of legislation because of the letters we were receiving from everyday people, all walks of life in Florida, that made some very valid points. So we said, let's take a step back and re-examine this issue. We have some issues this week that were on your mind, and so we reached into the mailbox to identify them. We got several letters this week. I think the first is about immigration, and I think it takes off from a speech that I gave last week in Miami to the Hispanic Leadership Network. The letter's from Ann in Titusville. She writes, I'm writing to take issue with your stand on illegal aliens. I have to say I understand your situation with your family coming to America. I too had family migrate to America, legally. We are a country of laws. I see no reason to alter our Constitution to take political correctness to a new high. The fact of the matter is laws are laws. What's wrong with adhering to them? Altering words to make individuals feel better does not eliminate the crime. I admire you for what you have been able to bring to our party, but you are now listening to some and not upholding the Constitution. I am weary of politicians picking and choosing what to uphold. Well, Anna, I'm not quite sure. Thank you for your letter. I'm not quite sure what you mean by my position on illegal immigration, so let me take this opportunity to repeat what I've said now, even from my campaign. It's not really changed since that time. The first thing I've said is that America needs to have a legal immigration system that works, and we don't have that right now. Our legal immigration system is broken. In fact, it's so broken that it actually contributes to illegal immigration. So we have to modernize our legal immigration system. That means simplifying our visa programs so that they're less bureaucratic and make sense for America's workers and America's economy. That means that we have a functional guest worker program that doesn't cost American jobs, but a guest worker program that looks at our economy year to year, and in those years where we are missing workers, say in agriculture, people can apply to be a guest worker from their home country. They fill out their information over there, they get a tamper-proof identification card. They come to the U.S. for a temporary period of time, and then they return home until we need them again. I've talked about border security. I've talked about the need for electronic verification and why we need some sort of workplace enforcement. None of that has changed, and that continues to be my position. I've challenged Republicans to be the pro-legal immigration party. We're not the anti-illegal immigration party. We're the pro-legal immigration party. And nothing is more devastating to legal immigration than illegal immigration. We have 11 million people in this country right now, maybe more, without documents. It's a very serious problem. On the one hand, we can't grant amnesty to 11 million people. We can't be the only country in the world that doesn't enforce its immigration laws. And I think we have to keep in mind that there are millions of people around the world waiting to enter the United States legally. In my own office, every day, we have people call or write because their relatives in another country have applied to enter the United States, they've paid their fees, they've gone through their background check, and they're waiting in line, they're complying with the law, and it wouldn't be fair to them who are doing it the right way. And if we ignore that, what do we tell people? What do we advise them? That the easiest way to come to America is illegally? So I'm not in favor of illegal immigration. But the other thing I've said is we have to be realistic. We're not going to deport 11 million people. And what I've said is I don't have an answer for what to do with the 11 million people that are in this country right now without documents. It's not an easy issue. It's not a black and white issue. It's not a slam dunk issue. But here's what I do know. I know that if we have a legal immigration system that works, if we have a system that is enforceable and enforced, if we have real immigration laws that are enforced through border security and workplace security, if we do all those things, it'll never be easy to deal with folks that are here without documents, but it'll be easier. What I did say in my speech is that we can never forget that while they're here without documents, some of these people entered illegally, some entered legally, and then their visas expired. But no matter what circumstances they find themselves in, the enormous majority of them came here looking for jobs. Certainly some of them, there are people that look for benefits and things of that nature, but the vast majority of the people that came to this country legally and illegally do so in search of a better life and in search of jobs. And they have, we should never forget the human stories behind each of them. These are the things I pointed out in my speech, and it's important that we do not allow the rhetoric behind the immigration debate to allow people to accuse us of things and of being what we are not. And that's the point I tried to make in my speech, and I hope to continue to work on it because it's an important issue. Not the most important issue facing our country, but an important one, and it needs to be solved. And we need to stop. Our hope, here's my hope. My hope is that one day we'll have a legal immigration system again that is a source of unity for our country, a source of pride, a legal immigration system that honors our heritage as a nation of immigrants, but also honors our heritage as a nation of laws. So thank you for writing your letter. Here's the second letter that I got. And this one is about the State of the Union. It's from Colleen in Inglewood, and she writes, from the State of the Union address, please find common ground with the President on such issues as pro-growth policies, lessening federal regulations, keeping jobs in the USA, opening new markets for USA products, energy independence, no more subsidies for big oil, the Stock Act and the DREAM Act. Also push for criminal charges for those responsible for the mortgage meltdown and make them pay retribution to those people who lost their homes. No more bonuses for criminals. Well, Colleen, thank you for your email. There are areas where I think we can work with the President on. In fact, I filed a bill last year where I went through and tried to identify every proposal that Republicans agreed with, Democrats agreed with, the President agreed with. We put it in a bill called the AGREE Act. That's the good news. I have a co-sponsor who's a Democrat. That's great news. Here's the bad news. It hasn't gotten a hearing. Still here in the Senate, we have not gotten a single hearing on that bill. And my party, the Republican Party, doesn't control the Senate. Here's what's more disappointing. The White House hasn't called for a hearing. We haven't been able to get President Obama and his team to line up and say, that's a good bill, let's hear it, and let's pass it. So as I've said consistently throughout my political career and in my run for the United States Senate, I'll work with anyone who wants to improve conditions in America. And I'm willing to work with people on the things we agree on. The things we don't agree on, well, that's why we have elections. But I have to say, all I've heard is silence from the other side. But I haven't given up hope. So I hope you'll write a letter to them as well. I encourage you to, and encourage them to jump on board the AGREE Act, and hopefully we can get that done and improve the quality of life for all Floridians and all Americans. Our next letter is about our trip to Haiti, and it's from Bruce in Lakewood Ranch, which is in Manatee County. Bruce writes, why are you spending my tax money to go to Haiti? We cannot help everyone, but let's start here. There are kids in Florida that need help. How much did this trip cost? What did you want to accomplish? What did you accomplish? How did it help the USA or Florida? Well, Bruce, I understand those concerns. We certainly are facing a serious fiscal crisis in America. By the way, foreign aid and trips to Haiti are not the reason for our fiscal crisis, but you ask legitimate questions about how we're paying tax dollars. And we spend a lot of tax dollars in Haiti. We've spent billions of dollars in Haiti over the last few years, especially after the earthquake. Now, I'm a member of the Foreign Relations Committee, and we have jurisdiction over those programs. I'm the ranking Republican on the Western Hemisphere Committee, so I have a special jurisdiction over how the United States spends foreign aid in Haiti. So I wanted to see for myself how those programs are working. How is the money being used? Is it being well spent or is it being wasted? And that's why I went to Haiti. It's part of my job as being on the Foreign Relations Committee. You can read about these things. You can have people give you reports. You can argue about whether we should be there or not. I think we should. But irrespective of that, we are there. We have already spent billions of dollars, and we're going to spend billions more in the years to come in Haiti, according to current plans. And I thought it was important, as your United States Senator, as the ranking Republican on the Western Hemisphere Committee, and as a member of the Foreign Relations Committee, and by the way, as a senator from Florida, a state with a significant Haitian population, and a state that's impacted by the things that happen in Haiti, I thought it was important that I go there. We were there just for one day. We didn't even stay overnight. That I thought it was important we go there and see for ourselves firsthand how the money was being spent and how things were working out. And I have to say, Haiti has a lot of challenges. I think our money has made a difference, but our hope is that Haiti can grow into a nation that is self-reliant, self-dependent, and doesn't require foreign assistance. There's examples of countries that have been able to do that. South Korea is one. South Korea at one time was an aid recipient of the United States. Today, not only is it not an aid recipient, it is a donor country. And just imagine how much more dangerous Asia would be right now if there wasn't a prosperous and free South Korea. Imagine how difficult it would be to deal with the threat of North Korea if there wasn't a prosperous South Korea, that, by the way, is a strong ally of the United States. So that's an example of where our foreign aid has made a difference in the past. Foreign aid always has to be supervised because we've never been able to afford to waste money, and we certainly can't now. But it's an important part of our foreign policy, and it is not what is creating our national debt. But I appreciate your concern. They're very legitimate questions. Our last letter is from Kelly from Navarre, and she writes about the Keystone pipeline. Anything you can do to somehow influence or change the direction of President Obama concerning construction of the pipeline would be greatly appreciated. His decision to not authorize its construction is detrimental to our economy, our national security, and the welfare of many U.S. citizens who need jobs. Until there is a viable energy alternative to oil, there is no logical argument against its use. Well, the pipeline is more than just about oil. It's about self-reliance, self-dependence for our country. We're an energy-rich country, and the pipeline would help us to utilize those resources we have at our disposal. And you're right, it would create jobs, both in construction and in maintenance. And I think there's bipartisan support for this. In fact, you've even seen labor unions come out and say that the Keystone Pipeline is important. Unfortunately, the president hasn't listened to us to date. So there's a piece of legislation here in the Congress, which I support, that would require the Keystone Pipeline to be authorized, and I hope it will pass. I have my doubts about whether it will, but I encourage you to call your senators and your congressmen, including me, and pressure them to be on board. You're very articulate in your letter about the reasons why we should be supporting the pipeline and other projects like it. Well, the year's gotten off to a fast start. We're in our second week here in Washington working on your behalf. And listen, I continue to encourage you to write us and email us because it does make a difference. We read every letter, we read every email, especially on topical issues. As I outlined at the beginning of this broadcast, they can make a difference. Time and again, we get input from everyday people. We take that into account, and it ultimately impacts the way I vote and the positions that I take. I need to hear from you in order to do a good job, and I encourage you to continue to write us because who knows? Maybe next week it'll be your letter or your email that we'll read on the air. Well, I want to thank all of you again, as I always do, for the honor of representing you here in the United States Senate. May God bless all of you, may God bless Florida, and may God always bless the United States.